My name is Jason Hughes. I am the producer of Hawken at Adhesive Games, and you're watching Platform 32.
As far as I can tell, and I've been thinking about this for at least 3 minutes, there is nothing cooler in this world than giant robots. Except for maybe giant robots armed to the teeth with big-ass guns. It's not surprising then that when jaw-dropping gameplay footage of a first-person perspective mech combat game called Hawken began to go viral on the net, gamers around the world started to get full-on robo-chubbies. Smacked in the face with downright awesome mech and environmental designs and some really fast-paced run-and-gun gameplay, all created by a tiny independent studio called Adhesive Games, the gaming public's want meter shot into the red, and Hawken was quickly picked up by a publishing company and given a nice cash injection so it could finally be unleashed upon the world. Desperate to know more, I gatecrashed the Hawken hands-on party at E3 and asked Jason Hughes, the producer of Hawken, if being acquired by a large publishing company and stepping away from indie development had affected the production of the game.
We've always had a very, very small team. Up until the beginning, even the beginning of this calendar year, there were 11 of us. So now we're growing a little bit. We have our open beta date. There's a lot that we want to get done before then. But it's definitely always been a very independent studio, and everyone really is good at just knowing what needs to be done. Now, still independent, we're keeping that same spirit, but we do have a publishing deal now with Meteor Entertainment, which allows us to do more with the game than we would have been able to previously. And moving to a free-to-play model, that's a huge part of that. I'm not sure that's something that we could have done if it was just like the 16 of us all by ourselves.
One of the main things that drew people to Hawken when gameplay first hit YouTube was the incredible graphics, which were simply stunning considering the small team of people who worked on the game initially. It has this wonderful western sci-fi movie meets Japanese anime style visual mashup that gives the game a truly unique feel and personality. What were the inspirations behind this epic look?
Well, a lot of that creatively was our creative director at King Lee at the studio. He's also one of the founders of the studio. He has a very specific visual vision for the game. We take inspiration from Blade Runner, Ghost in the Shell, to sort of bring about a not too distant future. So it feels unique, but at the same time very familiar to people, of a world that's been overpopularized and taken by corporations and really overdeveloped. So buildings built out way more than they should, billboards all over the place, wires hanging all over the place, not a lot of people around, looks like it's a little bit run down. So it's, yeah, it almost has a feel of that war zone, but yeah, definitely overbuilt. Like, unfortunately, that world hasn't gotten enough love from people.
Sweet! That's enough background now though, let's get down to the actual gameplay. At the event, I got a hands-on and tried out a classic team deathmatch, and before I'd even started the game I had to choose between one of 3 different mech classes: light, medium and heavy. Obviously the light mech is faster but weaker, while the heavy mech has better armour and can carry more weapons, and the medium mech is a good all-rounder. It's simple stuff, it makes team balancing very easy, and as such, Hawken is very easy to pick up and play for beginners and FPS pros alike. We were also shown a little of the free-to-play customization aspects of the mechs, which let us alter our loadouts between spawns. The development team were keen to point out that they didn't want to make a pay-to-win game though, and because of this were concentrating more on monetizing a variety of visual upgrades and weapon options, rather than just giving those with deep pockets access to robo-bashing uber weaponry. Which is a nice way to address one of the major concerns about the free-to-play genre. Anyway, Jason, please tell us more about Hawken's multiplayer.
Well, really happy with the multiplayer. That's what the focus of the game is. Right now, we've been talking about deathmatch and team deathmatch. We're the classics that everyone loves to jump in and just start playing. E3, we've also been talking about siege mode, which is something that's unique to the game. It takes a lot of different mechanics from other types of multiplayer games. We have some elements of resource gathering, and then we have some King of the Hill kind of capture point feel to it, and then some base destruction. So that is really sort of the premier mode that we're focusing on. We haven't talked about it a lot yet, but it's something we're showing here. It encourages a lot of different roles. So people can go into the match. They can work as support, they can work as gathering resources guy, they can work as a tank trying to escort that energy back. So it's very, very fluid, and I think people are really gonna take to that.
I've also been seeing footage and images of huge aerial battleships hovering above the arenas. Can you explain how these factor into the gameplay?
Well, that's actually part of Siege mode. So the whole part of Siege mode is to destroy your opponent's base, and part of that resource gathering is to gather up enough energy so that you can go back to your base and launch that giant ship that you saw. You can actually have multiple ones in the air, so, you know, both bases can actually have them launched. So the ship flies over, starts raining fire down on the opponents, and then also inflicting damage and helping your fight against the other base. So that's what you've seen. Players can actually shoot those down. They can do it by themselves, or they can get to the anti-aircraft gun, which is part of that capture point kind of mechanic that I talked about. And so they can shoot those down. They rain all the energy. You can go and collect that, and then try to launch another ship. Like it feels really unique, and a big lumbering ship up in the sky it's a very cool moment.
I only got to play on one map during my hands-on time, but was impressed with not only the size, but also the visual design and the fact that there was a great deal of verticality built into it, so you could climb to the top of tall buildings and rain down death on unsuspecting mechs. Will you be sticking to this style of map on launch, or will there be a larger variety available?
The levels that we have, not only do they have different tones, right? There's the one that we have in the build. There's the Andromeda, which is the one that we've shown in a lot of the videos. It has that teal sort of tint to it. Then there's the one in the desert, and there's another one that we're showing, which is a little bit more of a yellow hue to it. But outside of those visual differences and the actual layout, they play very differently. We have some maps that are very, very vertical, some that are a little bit more horizontal, so I think people are going to see a big mix of maps. It's not just going to be how it looks or how it's laid out necessarily, but the depth, and it changes the style of gameplay. We haven't actually decided on how many maps we're going to launch with. Our focus right now is on the polish of the ones that we have. I mean, that date's coming up fast, so the maps that we put out, I mean, we have a bunch in, various degrees of completion and polish. So the ones that we focus on, we're going to make sure those are super polished, ready to go, have those out, but then we also have ones that we're going to continue to work on and make sure that we're good, we're good with putting them out. And again, wide range of sizes, wide range of styles, and yeah, they're all really cool.
I was really impressed with the way Hawken played. It was so much faster than the majority of mech games I have played, which gave the whole experience a much more exciting Twitch shooter feel to a genre which is often a lot slower paced. There has been some criticism from mech-mad gamers in regards to the speed of Hawken though, with a lot of people complaining that this game doesn't look like it has the feeling of being in a mech, that it's more of an FPS with mech skins. I asked Jason why Adhesive had taken this route with Hawken.
I think it's very different. There's very different kinds of mech games. We've seen some that are very classic that I love playing, that are definitely more on the simulation type of experience. They're a little bit more slow moving, a little bit more aimed at micromanaging, and that's a good experience on its own. There's a lot of mech games that we've seen coming out of Japan and sort of the Eastern markets that are much faster, sort of hyper, fast-paced, really super run and gun, and we wanted to find a good middle ground for that. So we have a good chunk of that lumbering, super powerful monster machine to unleash devastation, but it's not super slow. It's not, you aren't focusing on a lot of things that require micromanaging. You can just kind of jump in and play. But with our customization, and I think with the feel, when people get in and start feeling how it plays, they'll see what we're trying to hit with the game, and I think we're getting really close to something that people are gonna really like.
Granted, Hawken does feel a lot more like an FPS style game rather than a traditional mech sim, but after playing Steel Battalion for Connect, which is like trying to manoeuvre a rhinoceros through a giant vat of tar, Hawken was a much needed breath of fresh air. Yes, controlling your weaponry is very Twitch shooter. The mouse means you can whip back and forth between targets in milliseconds, but the robots themselves still feel like robots. They clank along, the cockpit vibrates and and shakes as you walk. You can activate cool skidding boosts using the shift key, and you also have the ability to hover in the air when you jump, which gives it a true Japanese future robot feel over that of a lumbering tank on legs. Now, earlier on, Jason, you mentioned to me that you were focusing on showcasing multiplayer at this E3. Does that mean that there's going to be a single-player component to the game at any point? Maybe a bot arena or even a campaign?
I'm not going to rule anything out. There's a lot of ideas we have for the game, both with content, with modes, with maps, with... The sky is the limit, and we want to support the game as long as people want to play it. So we have a lot of thoughts about what else we can do with it. But right now we only have the multiplayer aspect of in the match, team deathmatch and siege mode. But by no means does that mean it's the end of what we can do with the game.
And that ability to keep adding to games is why the free-to-play genre is growing so fast in the West now. Games which grow and change according to the wants and needs of their players really are looking to be the future of interactive entertainment at the moment. I had a great time with Hawken. It was definitely the best free-to-play and PC-only game I tried while I was at the Expo, and I'm thoroughly convinced that it will be a massive success, but it could be that some of my viewers may still be on the fence about it, considering the amount of first-person free-to-plays which keeps bringing up. What would you say lifts Hawken above all the other contenders?
Well, we have some good competition, that's for sure. I would say that the visual style is extremely unique. It captures people right away, and that's what helped us get some of the attention for the game in the first place. I think once people, when they're attracted to that and they actually have a chance to sit down, play with the customization, see what we have to offer with weaponry and the skills and the items that we have, and actually start playing with that, and then start jumping into the maps and start experiencing the world and how the game feels and some of those unique modes, I think that's what's going to keep them there.
Couldn't agree more, Jason. Now finally, when will people be able to get a hands-on with Hawken in their own homes?
Our open beta is 12/12/12 of this year. I encourage everyone to actually go to playhawken.com. You can register for a closed beta, which is we haven't announced a date for that, but that's coming before the open beta. Hopefully we can get as many people in as possible, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what people think.
Thanks, Jason. As one of my favourite games of this year's E3, I couldn't urge my PC gaming viewers enough to take Jason's advice and register for the beta. It's an incredibly good-looking game which plays fantastically, and best of all, it's free! Oh, and it's got giant robots. Yeah.